Hello, biology teachers, and welcome to this final video in this five-part video series where I'm showing you how to take all the curriculum resources, how it's structured, and in today's final video, using all that to plan out a really good lesson plan. Let me share my screen so we can go ahead and get started. I'm going to bounce between two different screens or two different documents. So let me zoom in on this. We'll have your curriculum map pulled up so you guys can see all the different things and where I got it from. And I've also got this example lesson plan that we'll go through, and I'll show you guys the kind of lesson day activities, things that I put together. Now, there's nothing special about this lesson plan template. It's actually just a single day lesson plan template. I think most of you use weekly ones. This was just a Word template. So I just needed something to throw my thoughts together on. So nothing special here. You're not mandated to use these. But let's go ahead and start kind of going top to bottom. Let's view it, see where it came from. Most lesson plans do have your objective and standards. And what's nice about our new curriculum map is when you scroll down, you got your objectives right here and your standards. So very easy to find for planning and getting your lesson ready to go. But the actual lessons and what's going on, I listed here in the activities. And I broke it down into two columns. So the column on the left, the teacher guide, that's what things I need to know and plan and prep for the lesson. And then the student guide, what the students are actually doing in the lesson. I forgot to mention, if you look down in the description of this video, you should find a link to get access to this document if I did it correctly. So that way you can have this printed out as I go through this video. I think that'll be useful. And continue. So we'll go ahead and focus on the activities part. I got a few activities planned out. This should be enough for a 90-minute class period, and we'll see where everything came from. Okay, so the first activity that I did was I'm introducing the phenomena. That is the first thing I listed in all different concepts. So the introduction to this unit phenomena is who am I? And if you click on this, it's going to take you to a website. There's a video as well as some reading. And what's really cool about this one is it talks about how humans are made up of trillions of cells. And a huge portion of those, in fact, more than 50% of the cells in terms of numbers are actually not human cells. They're bacteria cells as opposed to human. And so the question that I'm going to pose to the students as after we watch this video is, are we more human or are we more not? And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to turn this into a debate. So kind of tell the students, kind of prep it with, hey, we're made up of trillions of cells that aren't even human. We'll watch the video, and then I'm going to tell each student which side of the argument that they're on, and they're going to have to form their arguments as a group. So I'm going to assign some roles, provide links for research. One half of the group or the class is going to be, no, we are humans. We're made up of human cells. The other half is, I think we're less human, we're more bacteria than human. And so they'll be able to kind of defend their viewpoint. And the truth of the matter is, if you go by sheer number, then yeah, we're less human than we are other things. But if you go by mass, actually we're more human. And so they can come up with their own ideas, but that's going to kind of generate some good discussion in the classroom for anybody who's done class discussions. Maybe you got some other thoughts as I'm saying this to kind of help this kind of become even more. So students will have that quick debate. I'm not trying to make this incredibly long, but I think it'll create a pretty memorable activity where students can call back to and be like, I remember we kind of disagreed on are we made up of more human cells or bacteria cells? So I think there would be some interesting points brought up in that discussion. So pretty cool. And then we're going to start off and do a characteristics of life lab. So now everybody was kind of in two groups. I want to move them into their lab groups. Let's go ahead and find the lab that I am referencing. So when I created this lesson plan, I actually skipped over the water concept just because that was more of a connecting to chemistry. I wanted to create a lesson plan for you guys that use more of the biology. So I actually pulled everything from concept 1.5 instead of 1.2. So I kind of skipped over just if you're following along. So I found this lab right here, characteristics of life. This is the student document, which has some useful information if you click on that, but you also have the teacher's guide listed right over here. And remember, all your documents, if they're not linked, you can find here in this resource folder. So very useful. Make sure you check that. And we might look there for other things in a second. So characteristics of Life Lab, you're going to have 2 mystery substances. Now, you know what they are, but the students don't know. And they're going to go through a couple of processes to kind of investigate, is this living? And so they got, the materials aren't too bad, but they're going to do a couple of procedures to investigate, look at it either under a microscope, maybe they use a hand lens, and they're going to make their observations. Part 2, they're actually going to mix these with sugar. So it gives you kind of a breakdown, how much of the mystery matter, how much sugar, and how much hot water. So you can kind of get where this is going. Mystery matter number 2 is yeast. And so when they mix that into a bottle and you put a balloon over it, over time, that bottle is going to fill up with air and you'll inflate the balloon. And so that's evidence of respiration. And so students can then say that that mystery object is a living thing. But that kind of takes time. So for that, I basically said follow the instructions in those labs. I always do my labs with, we're starting the lab together, and then I slowly transition them to do their own work for a little while. But that part where they put the balloon over the bottle, that takes time. It takes like 20 minutes. So I'm going to have the class kind of get that set up, and then we're going to go do another activity for 20 minutes and come check back up on those and make our observations. Because if you see, the students have to kind of write down the size after 20 minutes. So making their observations there. So while the students, so we've done one part of the lab, and then we set up the bottles to see, okay, is anything going to produce gases? We leave that off to the side. And while we wait, I went ahead and pulled this acid rain article. And I do tie this back into our conversation about characteristics of life. Now, I lied earlier. I did pull one thing from up here in concept 1.2, which was the article Surviving Acid Rain. I will go find that for you. So it's in this folder. And I put this one in the additional assignments. The way you know that is the article is listed down here under the additional assignments. So I'm just going to find my article. And then this one. And so I'm going to pick 2 students, and one of them is going to be the reporter. The other one's going to be Dr. Snowden. And my 2 students will do the reading, kind of impersonating those characters. Everybody else, I'm going to have them filling out a graphic organizer. It's actually just a T-chart. One half will be cause, and the other half will be effect. So what are the causes of acid rain? What creates it? And the effect, what happens because of acid rain? So they can talk about the erosion of buildings, but more specifically, you're looking at the damage to living materials. And so students can fill that out while they're following along. So that way they are kind of building something as we do this activity. I figure that would take us 15, 20 minutes, depending on setup and how long we pause and have discussions. And so by the time we finish this activity and they've created their T-charts, now it's been 20 minutes, they can go back to that lab, check on the size of the balloon. So that's pretty useful. And then one thing to connect this idea of the acid rain to the other discussion we're having in terms of living things is before the students leave for class, I actually put this in the, so at the end, ask what would happen if we added acid rain or an acidic liquid into our bottles with the mystery substances. And so before students leave class, you can actually just get some acidic water or something like that and add it in. So let's say we have 2 bottles that were producing gas. I'm going to add some acidity into one. And then when they come back the next day, they'll be able to visualize, oh, wow, that killed the growth that was going on in that bottle, whereas the other one was still able to move on. So you can take this and modify your lab to now carry on to the next day to see the effects of human cause events, acid rain. So I thought that was kind of a cool connection to bring in something from the water topic into this one. But I'm sure you could do many other things. Now, we still have quite a bit of class time left, and we have the students, let me go back to it, in their lab. You see they do 20 minutes, so they got their initial measurements. We did the article, they've got their new measurements, and before they leave class, we'll do one more measurement. So the last thing that I wanted to do was just do a presentation. So maybe there's a creative way that you can do this, but I'll go ahead and simplify down my slides. If you'll notice the current slides that I have right now for the chemistry of life. Let's go ahead and open that up. There's a ton of slides and we don't need to go over all of it. So I said for my lesson plan, I was just going to go through and pick a select few slides that I needed. And so while we wait for that last measurement time before the students leave, we'll cover just a few slides and notes. Students will gather those in their notebooks. And then before class ends, they go over and they take their last measurement. And we're actually going to leave the bottles overnight. If it's me, I'm going to go ahead and add some acidity into one of the bottles that's been filling up so we can compare what happens when acidic water is added into the equation. So as you can see, there's lots of stuff here. So I'm going to kind of skim through, find the slides that kind of work for me. There's even questions embedded. So this is a pretty dynamic slide. I have somebody helping me create different slides for chemistry. Maybe there's some biology teachers. You guys want different slides from these. These come from the New Jersey Center for Learning and Teaching. I think they're a bit lengthy, but that's because they have questions embedded. So I think maybe as a cohort of biology teachers, we can either find some slides you guys prefer better to use in the curriculum app, or we can create our own. So right now, I'm just going to select some of the slides that I need from there. That should get us to the end of class. And then we will go do our last check on our lab for the growth. And we'll determine, okay, mystery object substance 1, no growth in the balloons. Mystery substance 2, they were growing. We'll set it up for an overnight, and then we'll see how that goes. And so that kind of brings me to the end of my lesson. As you can see, that was pretty engaging and dynamic. Students were quite involved. We got a whole lab in there. I think that using the resources that we have available, we'll be able to create some pretty engaging and dynamic lessons. And you guys know biology more than I do, so I think you guys will have even better expertise to pull really good stuff and make fun lessons that students are going to remember. So thank you very much. I won't see you in the next video. This is the last one, but I will see you guys in your buildings. Goodbye.